welcome to Quick Show. I am Greg Mattson, your host. I am with Nikki Renard and Mike Anderson of WHOlives. Nikki is the Director of Public Relations, and Mike Anderson is, official title, I guess, is Village Drill Expert. And we're going to talk about bringing clean water to remote parts of the world, to villages where they don't have this clean water. WHOlives does an incredible thing. They bring what they call a village drill out to these remote parts of the world where clean water is scarce. And to date, tell me if I'm wrong, I think you guys have brought this village drill out to over 7 million people that are affected by this drill. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So a couple of quick questions here. I've got a little bit of information that I've pulled from your website. You guys say that you have, there are about 11% of the world's population that does not have access to clean water. I don't know what that means yet. What do you mean they don't have access to it? Obviously, you can't live without water. Are they drinking water that is not pure? Are they just having to travel a long distance to get that? What does that mean?
Well, we know that water is in the ground. We know that it's there in the aquifers, but we know that in countries that are still developing, they just don't have the structure to get the water. So most people, like in Africa, especially, and in other countries, they have to walk a long distance for contaminated water. So the average distance the women and girls, mostly it's probably 80% women and girls walk, is 2.4 miles. Wow. And so they're spending most of their time going to carry
2.4 miles each way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're walking long distances carrying these jerry cans or other containers that are extremely heavy. It's like carrying your 6-year-old on your head, actually. That's how heavy it is, to get water that they know will probably make them sick and make their family sick, but there's no other choice.
Now, this is interesting to me because, I'm going to go off a little bit of a tangent here, but
that's okay.
Anciently, right? I study a lot of ancient history. That's what you would typically see, right? You see the women going to the wells. This is where Isaac finds his wife. This is where Jacob finds his wife at the well. You can look at Jungle Book, Mowgli at the end. Where does he see the girl when he gets all googly eyed and everything? She's there getting water, right? She's drawing water. So this is a very common thing anciently for the women. Jesus meets the woman at the well, right?
Right.
And so this was a common gender role, we would say, anciently for the women, and obviously in modern times here in certain parts of the world, to travel to find the water. Why would they? I mean, this might be, maybe I'm just not thinking this through enough. Why would you build a village so far away from water?
Well, so part of it is climate's change, right? Sometimes these villages have been there for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And so streams dry up, rivers change, the beds change, lakes dry up, things change. The Mississippi River hasn't always had its same course. Mm-hmm. So it could have been 200 years ago when a family moved into this area, there was a nice spring there, and maybe that's why they chose it. And then, 100 years later, that spring dried up, but they already had their homes, they already had their crops, those kind of things. And so they continue to walk for water. Also, the areas that are near water tend to be more populated, simply because there's water there.
Sure.
So I think a lot of people, we have no concept of it here in the United States. Water is just plentiful and it's everywhere and it's free. Basically, you go anywhere and get free water at a drinking fountain. You pay a little bit for it in your home. But in these third world countries, the infrastructure just has never been put in place by governments to bring clean water to the people. So when Nikki mentions, contaminated water, think about going to a lake or a river, the same river that animals are defecating in or people are bathing in, and that's your water source. That really is their water source. They're going to streams and ponds and swamps and just getting water where they can.
How does this affect the village in terms of, for example, obviously the women spending all this time? If you're saying the average is 2.4, I'm guessing there's some villages where, the women are walking much further. Every day, I guess, or every other day or whatever it might be to go and get the water. How does that affect the village typically, as you've seen? If the women had the ability to use their time and labor and everything else in the village, I would imagine that would help things quite a bit.
Yeah, well, we like to say that water is the baseline. So when you have clean water, you have health and opportunity. And those are the acronyms for WHOlives: water, health, and opportunity.
Okay.
So once you have the clean water, then we know that crops increase substantially. Then we know that chickens lay more eggs, animals give more births. You're not missing days due to sickness. You have all of this extra time to develop jobs and skills. We know that right now that girls have to miss school, when it's that time of the month for them because there's no clean water for them to clean themselves. We know that children are missing school in general just because of the long walk. And we also have studies and articles that show that there's actually trafficking going on, sex trafficking going on in exchange for water, which is disturbing. And, we know of people that have gotten killed. We visited a village, Mike and I, and somebody had lost their mother to a crocodile. And another 5-year-old boy at Christmas time, he drowned when he was collecting water. So there's some pretty disturbing stories, but it's just the fact of life. You have to have water to live. We know that.
Well, it's
Greg-
also a tool, right? I mean, it can be for anybody who wants to take advantage of a group or a village or citizens or anything else. I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that's that takes power out from the people. There's no question about that. So give me an idea here of how this works. And we're going to go into the village drill. I want to know a little bit more about the specifics of it and how it happened. But before we get there, well, you know what? Let's back up. So tell me how this started. How did this start? What brought about the idea of creating this drill that would allow you to go to remote places? Because that's the biggest issue, right? You've got, how do you bring in all of this major equipment that traditionally to dig a well, you would have to bring in? It's going to be expensive. Portability is a very big issue to go into some of these remote places. Who's going to support that? How did this come about?
Well, Greg, I would love to tell you the story, the conception of it, how it happened, and then I'll let Mike tell you some of the logistics of the drill.
Great.
So, it all started in 2007 when we lived in the Seattle area. And my husband is also the CEO and founder, John Renard, came to our family at dinner one night and said, we're moving to Utah. And we were shocked because we lived in a small community. He was coaching football, I was teaching school, graduating class of 175 kids, just a really tight-knit community. And there were tears. There were lots of tears. But, I've been married almost 35 years and I decided I like this guy. I want to stick with him. So we're going to do this. So we brought our family to Utah without even a place to live. We moved into an RV park, basically. And then my son was called on a mission the same year in 2007. He was called to go to Kenya and Tanzania. And when he was there, he suffered all kinds of maladies that just happened, malaria multiple times. There was a government overthrow where he had to be confined to his apartment for almost 2 months. And because people were just killing each other, it was just pretty horrific. So many things that I probably never heard about because he was, sparing me. And so he came home and as a family, we decided we need to go back to Africa and see what he experienced. So we did. We took another son and the 4 of us went back and spent 3 weeks there. And everywhere there were kids walking around with the jerry cans on top of their head and banging water bottles. And we were like, what the heck? It's 2009. Why do you still need to go collect water? Why isn't it just coming out of the tap? And so we returned to the States, back to Utah. And as a family, we decided we needed to help with the extreme poverty. We needed to do something. So we read about Brigham Young University developing a brick making machine. And so John called them to see if we could be part of it, support it. Well, 2.5 months go by. John's sound asleep in bed, and he is awakened with this vivid dream that he had about a human-powered drill. And he jumps out of bed and he sketches it. and then he forgets about it. Well, he gets a phone call from BYU's capstone engineering program that says, "Hey, do you have a project for us?" And he's like, "How did you get my number?" What's going on? He'd forgotten about that brick making phone call. But he said, "Yeah, I've got an idea for a human powered drill. Now, I'm not an engineer. I have no idea how drilling works, but if you're interested, I'd love to present it to you." And they said, "Of course." So he went to the team. These are all seniors graduating with a lot of experience. And John likes to say he was just too stupid to know that this wasn't going to work. This is why he had the dream, why he had the inspiration. And man, the whole semester went by, so good 6 months, and it just wasn't coming together. And he was getting a little frustrated. And so he gave his football talk, "Come on, let's have some inspiration. Come on, you guys, some perspiration." And it was down to crunch time, like less than 2 weeks to go. And sure enough, they sent him a CAD drawing. And it was just emotional. There were tears because it was this vision. It was exactly what he had seen. It was the human powered village drill. And that's how it came to be, the first one in 2010.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Okay. So Mike,
Yeah.
give us an idea of the engineering behind this and why it has to be what it is. What are the obstacles that we're going to be faced to be able to produce something like this?
The two biggest obstacles.
Oh, by the way, so how many of these things how many holes have you drilled?
Over 7,000.
How
over
many?
7,000 boreholes.
7,000.
7,000 boreholes.
That's amazing. Okay, so
counting.
7,000 wells basically that you
Yep.
have drilled with the village drill so far.
Yep.
Okay.
Us
So
and our
again,
partners,
what are
yeah.
the obstacles in putting this together, and how did you do it?
So the first part, when you talk about, you nailed it. When you get to these remote areas, there's two major problems with the current technology. The current technology is very effective at what it does, but it's very expensive. The big rig drilling truck, it may cost $300,000 to $500,000 to purchase one of those big rig trucks. And they're very expensive to operate, very expensive to maintain. So that's the first problem, is when they go to a remote village in Africa or in the Philippines or something else, and they tell a village, "Hey, we can drill a well for you, but it's going to be $25,000. Well, that might as well be $25 million for these remote villages. That's just completely beyond their means. So the first problem is it's too expensive. That method is too expensive. So John realized that he had to have something that was inexpensive. It also had to be portable, because in the developing world, 75% of people live off of improved roads. When you go we just got back from a trip to Kenya here a month or so ago, and they have they have roads and they have rough roads. And rough roads are unlike anything you'd see in the States. It's not just like a gravel road or a dirt road. It's a dirt road that's been washed out by the rains, and there's trees growing in the middle of the road. And I mean, it's just an obstacle course to try and get any vehicle down this rough road. A big rig truck wouldn't even dream of going down that road. They're going to get stuck. They're going to get tipped over. They're going to get damaged. So we know the two big problems: cost and access. So the first thing with the village drill, he had to figure out a way, how are we going to do this inexpensively? It's got to be affordable so that when we go to a village, they can afford to pay for the water. Because we don't want to be a charity that just gives away water wells all year long. That's a different story and why. But we want them to be self-reliant and help them to purchase their own water wells, much more effective. So it had to be inexpensive. It had to be extremely durable, and it had to be able to go anywhere. It had to be able to get to the areas where they need the water. So those were the things that he had to overcome. And of course, you can understand the engineering challenge. This has got to go. If you think about this, the average depth of an aquifer is over 100 feet in the earth. That's a 10-story building. So that little drill behind her right shoulder, that has to go down a 10-story building using only human power. And that's quite an engineering feat. And what makes that possible is that flywheel. The flywheel has arms that come out and extend from that center bar, and that extension of the arms, allowing with the human power that people spin it with their hands, that multiplies their efforts just like a lever. So you've basically got 8 levers around that center spoke, and that gives them the power to go down to 200, even 300 feet into the earth. That's the engineering behind it. It's all,
keep going.
No, it's all laser cut US steel. So it's very durable. It has to be durable. When you get, it's not like here, if you break a part, you can't run down to Home Depot. There is no Home Depot. There may be a hardware store that it may be 4 hours away, and that's not unrealistic at all. And when you get there, they may not have a part. So it had to be extremely durable. That's one of the most important things in solving these big problems is it has to be durable. It can't break down.
So, I read on there, I believe that the drill itself it's 6 inches in diameter. Is that right?
The borehole, the finished borehole is 7.25 inches.
Okay.
That's the finished borehole. Yeah.
Okay. So that's what's going down,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's going through mud, rock, whatever else it might be going in there. What is the tip like?
It's an industrial drill bit. It's the same drill bit that a big rig truck would use to drill a well in your backyard.
Okay. But all human power on this.
All human power, but it's the same drill bit.
Okay. So obviously, as I look behind Nikki here to her right shoulder, for those of you that are on YouTube here, that is not 200 feet high, right? How is this thing going down that far? And is there anything that needs to be put down with it to make, because isn't the hole just going to collapse?
Great.
I mean, you're going 100, 200 feet.
Yeah.
It doesn't do you a whole lot of good to have that last for a few days and then have it collapse.
That's exactly right. So the reason the wells collapse is because of vibration. And so when you have a big rig drilling truck, they actually drill the hole and they install a metal casing at the same time to keep it from collapsing. But with the village drill, there's no vibration because there's no mechanics. There's no diesel engine shaking it. There's no pounding with a hammer. Whoop, look out. It's just human power. And so we actually have very few cave-ins because we're just drilling a hole straight down. We use a polymer called bentonite, which is a clay that coats the outside of the borehole that keeps it from collapsing. Now, you still will occasionally have a collapse, but it's not super common because there's just no vibration. It doesn't have to be 200 feet tall. It's only about maybe 10, 12 feet tall, but you can't really see it over her right shoulder. There's a stack of drill string. It's a 1 meter long, 3 foot long pipe that has a coupler on each end, and we add those 1 meter at a time. So as the drill goes down, they turn the wheel, the drill bit goes down, the string goes down. Once it goes down a meter, we unhook it, we lift the top back up, we add another section, and you go down again a meter.
So you are basically creating a pipe.
You're adding a pipe, or we call it a drill string, but it's basically a hollow pipe. And then we pump water down through the middle of the pipe that comes into the drill bit, mixes with the dirt at the bottom, and then the cuttings come up the outside of the pipe, and we take the cuttings out of the hole that way.
Now is the pipe going to remain there for the pump later on?
Nope. The pipe is removable. Once you take the pipe out, now you've got a 7.25 inch hole, and then we put back in casing, usually PVC casing, that is the well casing. And again, that's the same well casing that you would use in a well in your community or in your backyard.
Okay, so the cost of the original piping that you're putting down there, that you're pulling back out and using it again and again and again.
Correct. Yep.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're going down 100, 200 feet for this. How do you know where to drill?
Oh, that's more of an art than a science. So, they use the same techniques that you talk about anciently. They use the same techniques. They look at the terrain. They look at the topography. Is it broadleafs or is it a thin leaf? In Africa, if there's a termite mound nearby, that's a sign that there's water because termites love to be near water. They also do water dousing. They take those copper rods and they do water dousing. It's actually a little easier now because we can actually go.
What is water dousing?
So water dousing is they also call it water witching. You take two copper wires and you bend them at an angle and you walk across the ground holding those copper wires. And it sounds crazy.
This sounds like 19th century folk stories.
I've seen it.
It works. I tried it.
When you walk over a source of water, the copper wires cross. And I mean, we've tested it in backyards. We've tested it in Africa.
Wow.
John actually tested it. He did the water dousing, and then at the same time, he brought in a surveyor to do a geological survey. They chose the same spot.
So it's like a divining rod.
Yeah, it really is.
It's a divining rod. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and it works.
interesting. Okay. And it's copper.
Copper.
Okay.
Yeah, copper.
Okay. So you're now, what about that's specifically where you're going to drill. What about knowing where you're going to go as far as a village it goes? How do you know where you're going to go to? What village you're going to go do this at?
I'll give that one to Nikki.
Well, sure. Well, as you can imagine, being a nonprofit with a worldwide influence, we get a request almost every single day. And people ask us to come to their organization and their community and drill for water. But we have a really incredible approach to that, which we may or may not discuss later. We'll just see what time goes on. But what we do is we use donors who donate to our cause, and then we put them on our projects page. So if you go to WHOlives.org projects, you can see the current projects that we're working on. And you'll also see a ton of project funded things, which is incredible because it shows how much work we're actually getting done. So if it's a school or an orphanage, and say like a school, a local elementary school, which just happened last week, did a fundraiser, then we'll match those funds to another school or orphanage and bring them water. If it's a community that needs water, then we'll often give them a down payment, or we'll fund, maybe 50% of the cost of a well. And then we'll have the community, I guess we're getting into it, so we call it a community funded program. We'll have the community receive a no interest loan from us, and then they'll pay it back over the next 10 months. And it's a different approach than most nonprofits, but we want these community and these people to feel empowered and to feel like they own this well. And so when the other communities say, hey, give us your water, they can say, we own this, and sure, we can charge you just a small amount. I mean, $2 a family a month is something that they can afford, for our water. And in turn, all kinds of opportunities just sprout from this. So the model is incredible.
So it becomes an income source for the village.
Absolutely.
For some of them.
Absolutely. Yes.
Interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Do they usually look at that immediately as a turnaround to help fund the payback of the loan?
Yeah. Well, once we explain it to them, yeah. I mean, so it's, sometimes charity,
they've got an asset now. They've got a real asset.
Sometimes well-meaning people give to charities and it ends up hurting. Sometimes that happens. And we don't want to do that. So we found that we sell our drill to a lot of nonprofits. We've sold to some of the largest nonprofits in the world, and they go out and they do their own projects. So some of those 7,000 wells are other nonprofits like Samaritan's Purse or World Relief or International Order of Migration, World Vision. And they have programs where they're trying to help people, and they run their programs. Our program, we want to increase economic activity. We want to decrease dependency. And so when we go to a village, they've been conditioned over many, many years to ask for handouts. When we get to the village, it's always the same scenario. They'll have all the parents there, and they'll have community leaders, and they know that a nonprofit's coming to visit, and they start telling us all the things they need. We need a new school, we need a new roof, we need a new tractor, and they list all these things. And we say, great, we can help you have all of that. And the way to do it is to get your own clean water source. And they say, great, are you going to give us a well? Nope, we're not. They kind of look crestfallen, like, what do you mean?
So they don't know this in advance? They don't know what the deal is in advance before you get there?
The first time we go to visit with them, our marketing agents, or we'll go on impact missions and we'll go and visit with the village, and we hear they have a need. And so we go and visit with them, and then we tell them that yeah, we can help fill that need, and this is how we're going to do it.
That is really interesting. So
Yeah.
you are really doing much more than just bringing them water. You're bringing them commerce.
Yes.
And an asset that they have that obviously is going to make their lives easier, but is also going to produce something for them.
Absolutely.
Ongoing. I love that model. That is really interesting. I always have the issue of, it's not an issue. I mean, I'm happy to give somewhere, but knowing that someone is invested on the other end is a lot more powerful, I think. I mean, both for the person giving and for the person receiving.
Yeah, there's no question when a gift is given without investiture, without doing that work, it isn't appreciated as much in this setting as if they earned it themselves. We have lots of experience where NGOs, well-meaning NGOs, went into a village and provided a well for free and waved goodbye and left to the next village. And 4 or 5 years later, something happened to the well. Maybe an animal hit the hand pump and knocked the chain off. Maybe the O-ring at the bottom became corroded and it stopped working, and the well stopped working. Well, we'll go into a village and they've got a well there, and they'll say, well, how come you're not using that well? Well, that's not ours. Somebody else put that in. This other group came and put it in, and it stopped working, and so we don't know how to fix it, and it's not ours, so we're not going to fix it. And that may sound crazy, but that's really the way it is. It's like if my neighbor's car broke down, I'm not going to walk across the street and fix his car without him asking. It's his. And so they don't view it as theirs. And so they're not going to fix it because it's not theirs.
Yeah,
but when they make a payment, when they pay for it, then when something happens, they're like, hey, let's fix this thing. It's ours.
That is fabulous. So what do you have blowback from that? I mean, I don't mean the villages. I mean other people, donors or other NGOs that are nonprofit organizations that are. Do you ever hear any problems with that? Like, why wouldn't you just give this to them? That isn't very kind of you, or
no, just the opposite. Just the opposite. People innately understand that there's value in working for something. And so when we tell this story, the overwhelming majority of people are like, what a great idea. I love that. I don't know about you, Nikki. I've not had a single instance where a donor or another NGO has said, hey, that's a bad idea. It's just,
I haven't either. And I think the same thing applies to our impact missions. A lot of people want to go with us on our trips. We have one in July that's completely full, and they want to go there and do some good for the people of Africa. They want to be part of the drill team. They want to do it all. But when we explain to them, this is more about us learning from them. We're going to learn from them and see their beautiful culture. And we are there not as heroes, but to learn and to experience it. And with that aspect in mind, you are completely changed by these beautiful people. They are just a happy, wonderful people that just enjoy life. With their ragged clothes or extreme poverty, it's absolutely incredible, these people, and we love them. And that's why we suggest everybody comes on an impact mission with us, because it's incredible. It's not like anything anybody will ever experience again.
Okay, and I'm guessing people can look that up on your website. Is that right?
Yeah, they can.
Okay.
So
Thanks, Greg.
we just came back in February.
What's that, Mike?
I said we just came back in February from one of these, and as we sat in the airport, we think we were in Amsterdam on the way home, and all of us looked at each other and just kind of went, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to the social media, to the politics, to all the contention. It's like, we're just so happy here.
Yeah.
And we wanted to come back to our families and go back to life, but we were like, it's just so
funny
simple.
how taking materialism out of the equation does that for you. How does this affect, how you've been doing this? Was it 2007, Nikki?
So the first drill went in 2010.
Okay.
And that's something super cool. I don't know if I can turn you a little bit to show you, but on our wall, can you see that drill right there?
Yes.
So that drill is still functioning. So we don't even know the longevity of our drill. In fact, it just drilled a well in Tanzania.
But it's at least 11 years.
But at least 11 years. Yeah.
Okay.
It's about 1 million. BYU keeps our statistics, and it's about 1 million people per year that we're able to provide.
Wow, that is incredible. Wow. So tell me what this does. I mean, you must have real life experience with this. Do you go back and visit the villages later on, or you have feedback from this? How do you know that things are still going? And do you ever see the effects of this to a village?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as part of my job, I'm over public relations, which includes social media.
Hmm.
And so people will often tag us. I have one that I just reposted on our site from Go Conscious Earth. So they'll tag us and we'll be surprised, like, wow, look what they're doing. I mean, we don't know how many um, boreholes are being dug every day. We think there's about 3 every day because I think there's over 107 drill teams out there in the 36 countries now. And I mean, some just go crazy. When we put that drill on a boat and took it down to the Congo, John said they drilled like 9 wells in 12 days or something, Mike? It was
It was amazing.
phenomenal.
It was amazing.
It was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Tell
and so
them.
I mean, again, I'm guessing it completely transforms these villages. Again, if you don't have people having to walk miles and miles every day to go get their water, and even then, sometimes I'm guessing they may not be getting the best water. They may be walking to water that's not that great.
Well, they're walking to water. I'll give you an example. In February, we visited a remote village near Kwale, Kenya, and the kids were walking 4 kilometers one way to a stream. And it was, again, there were animals defecating in the stream. There were fish in the stream. There were people bathing in the stream. They're not fetching clean water. They're getting surface water. It's rivers and ponds and streams. Well, we visited with that village and we told them about the community funded plan. We found some donors that wanted to fund that well. And now I get to go back in July and we're going to go back to that village. The well is being finished this week, actually. We're going to go back to that village and see how it's affected the school. So Nikki has a great story about a girls' school in Kenya. I think that's a great story.
Yeah, so there was a well in Ngozi in Kenya that was donated in memory of a child that had passed. And we brought the donors or the sponsors with us on a trip. And out of the blue one day, we just decided to go visit this school and see what they had done with the water. No, it was like a 4-hour drive over some of those roads that Mike described off your, bumpy. And we took a ferry and we just showed up there like, hello, here we are. So they didn't have time to gather all the community leaders and have, I mean, they're wonderful. They'll do a spectacular song and dance and gifts and costumes and all of that. But we just showed up. Here we are. And so the director said, oh my, hello, let me see if we have lunch for you. But let me show you what we did with the water. And so she walked us out to 10 acres that was just covered in greenery. They had been growing crops, everything you can imagine, tomatoes, onions. It was spectacular and it was so emotional for our sponsors. And I'm sorry I get emotional as well because one well provided 10 acres of crops for this girls' school. And we had the girls talk on our camera, on our cell phones, on our video. And they said, this is the first time we've ever taken a shower.
Wow.
We are so happy not to make the long walk to water anymore. We're able to spend more time in school, and we're able to spend more time with our friends, playing with our friends, and enjoying things that children should enjoy because they don't have to do this. Mm-hmm. So it was spectacular. It's on our YouTube page if you'd like to look it up. It's Ngozi Girls School.
Okay, great. That's a good story. Let me get back to the drill for a second because I want to finish this off. Okay. You've dug the hole. Mm-hmm. How long does this take to get to water? How long are they going to have to sit there and get the flywheel going?
It totally depends on the substrate or what's underneath the earth, right? The best drill team in the best circumstances, we actually had one drill team that I think the record is 8 wells, 8 boreholes in 11 days. Now that's not an average. That's just the best.
Okay.
The drill's if it's going through normal soil, it can do 20, 30 meters a day. And so an experienced drill team really can reach water in 1 to 2 days. I typically tell people to expect, I try to set the expectation that it's going to take longer. Then when it's shorter, they're happy. So I'll say,
Sure.
Budget 2 weeks for a well. from the time you deliver the drill, you got to set it up. It takes a couple hours to set it up, dig everything that's ready to go. Then you start drilling. Then you drill for 5 or 6 or 7 days, and then you take a couple days to develop the well, meaning you install that casing, you install a hand pump or an electric pump or a solar pump. And so I tell people to budget 2 weeks per well. Oftentimes it's shorter than that, obviously. And then sometimes you hit a substrate where you just can't get through, and so you end up moving it and trying somewhere else. It's not a magic bullet. It's not a unicorn. It can't drill through 30 meters of solid granite. So, don't take it to your local rock quarry and try and drill through solid rock for 3 days. But for the most part, 2, 3 days to 5 days to 7 days, they can reach water.
Okay. So once you've reached water, you get the PVC encasing in there, you install a pump.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need the drill anymore. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. The drill just digs a hole.
Okay.
Once the hole's dug, you move it, take it to the next project, and the crew comes in and develops the well with just using their hands with casing and things like that.
Okay. Great. So you don't need a well sitting at every hole that you've, or a drill at every hole that you've dug.
No, the drill digs the hole, moves on, and then they install a pump, and the pump is actually what pulls the water out of the ground.
Okay. So you've talked about Africa a lot. Where else have you gone?
Oh, goodness. South America, Peru, Belize, Haiti, Philippines, Vanuatu. Where else?
I think I saw 36 countries.
Yeah.
Is where you're at.
Yeah.
That's pretty phenomenal. And same type of scenario in most of those places. I mean, same obstacles, same change, everything.
Yep. Yeah. The thing we've learned, people are the same everywhere. In the Philippines, they love their kids and need clean water. In Africa, they love their kids and need clean water. And here, we love our kids and need clean water. So the same obstacles, dirty water, ineffective government, the same obstacles everywhere.
Nikki, tell me about the Service Learning Empathy Program. What is that?
Absolutely. So we decided that we wanted to spread the message of these kids in Africa with our school children. And Miss Utah of 2019-2021 is a big ambassador for us. And so she and I were going into schools here in Utah and presenting an assembly to over 1,000 kids at a time. And as part of that assembly, I would show these shoes. And if you're on YouTube, you can see them, but these are little boy shoes of Thomas, and they are covered in red clay. They have holes in the toes and in the heels. And these are important shoes for Thomas. In fact, he didn't want to let us have these shoes, even though we gave him new shoes, because we are showing the kids how you can walk in someone else's shoes and how you can change the world for the better. So we put this program now online because of COVID. And so it's an assembly in itself and takes 20 minutes. And the kids are transported to Africa, where they meet Thomas and Juliet, his sister. And we invite the kids to go without something. Here in Utah, we have a lot of sodas and cookies and dessert bar places that are super popular. Everybody wants a giant soda and a big cookie, right? And so we invite the kids, the next time you're going through the drive-through, why don't you say, Mom, can I just not have soda this time? Can I have water? And we know with our approach and our model that we can give a person clean water for life for only $5.
Wow.
Not $5 a month, but just $5. And so, one soda, one cookie, one popcorn would provide 2 people clean water for life. And these kids are incredible. So we have over 1,000 people that joined our Well Done team, because we're doing a well done job getting a well, and they commit to it, and it's just phenomenal. So we have spread this throughout Utah. We're hoping to take it nationwide and just have an ambassador in every state to promote this program. There's nothing negative about the program. Everybody needs to have empathy and compassion. It prevents anti-bullying. It gives self-esteem, prevents self-entitlement that so many of our and ourselves, adults and children, feel these days. We feel entitled. And when you put yourself in the shoes of someone else, you just don't have those feelings anymore.
Yeah, well, that sounds fabulous. Well, Nikki and Mike, is there anything else you wanted to say before we finish off here?
Well, I'd say thanks for the opportunity to come and visit with you. We love telling our story. If Africa isn't on your bucket list, add it.
Add it on.
Okay. Without question,
Yeah.
You need to go and get in the villages and see a simpler way of life. Everywhere you go, smiling people, friendly people. And if it isn't on your bucket list, do it.
Great. Okay. Well, as I was saying before we started recording, I saw you guys on TV. It has to have been 13, 14. I don't know how long ago it was. It was a long time ago, but had always been interested in this. It always had I thought it was so phenomenal what was happening and how you were doing it. And then, of course, it just pulls on your heartstrings, right? To know that you're able to make that kind of a difference. And I really appreciate the way you're doing this with creating the opportunity, but not dependency through this type of a program. So well done.
Thank you. And Greg, and I would invite people to go to the website and join our newsletter.
What's the website?
It's WHOlives, so WHOlives.org. Join the newsletter, because every single Wednesday I have a Water Wednesday email that goes out to our Well Done community, which is growing by leaps and bounds, which we absolutely love. But we are very transparent. I'm showing you everything that we're doing with dollars that are donated, with trips coming up, with focusing on individual members even. I do spotlights, but join us. We would love to have you.
Great. Nikki and Mike, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
maybe we'll do a follow-up sometime.
Thank you so much. We'd love to.
Incredible. Thanks, Greg.
All right.